Hey guys, I'm Brianna and welcome to the first Freaky Friday on my channel. I don't want to blab too much at the beginning of this video as I definitely would be blabbing at the end. So with that being said, let's jump right into this case. So this video is about, excuse me if I'm saying it wrong, it is Spanish, Antonio Vilas Boas. So Antonio was a man who in the year of 1957 was 23 years old and worked on his family farm in Brazil. Now, like I said before, he did work on his family's farm, and to avoid getting sick or getting heat stroke or any of the other illnesses and discomforts that come along with working in the heat, his family had decided to do their cropping and farm work in the evening. So they would be up very, very late, almost all night, doing work in the crops to avoid working in the heat. Now, this first encounter is only stated in 2 articles and not everywhere, so I'm not sure if this one is actually stated by Antonio himself or if somebody just made it up and it got mixed in there, but I'm going to recap it anyways, just in case it is factual, as it does kind of tie into the rest of this video. So one night after being done their work, Antonio and his brother had headed to bed, so it was probably really early in the morning or really late at night. And while they were in bed, they had noticed a red light that seemed to be kind of like hovering in the sky just outside their window. So with this, after noticing this, Antonio got kind of nervous and slammed his shutters, and then they just kind of ignored it and went to sleep. So the following day at 1 a.m. while Antonio and his brother were working in the crops, they noticed this red light again. And I think for this encounter to have taken place, the red light must have been hovering pretty low. But they said that when they noticed it, the light kind of took off into the distance, and Antonio told his brother, you know what, I'm really curious about what this light is. I'm gonna go chase it, I'll be right back. So Antonio's brother had stayed doing whatever he was doing in the crops, and Antonio had tried to chase this light. And when he had gotten close to it, it is said that the light darted between Antonio and the sky about 20 times really fast before just completely disappearing. And the following day after that would be one that changed Antonio's life forever. This night in particular, Antonio was working on the fields alone. And yet again, he had seen this red light floating in the sky. But when he noticed it, the light seemed to have been coming towards him at a speed so quickly that Antonio didn't have a chance to react before the light seemed to be right on top of him. Next thing he knew, Antonio was staring face to face with a UFO that had landed right in front of him. And he had described this UFO as egg-shaped and red, which I think is very odd, as UFOs are usually described to be shaped like a saucer. They're usually described to be flat and round, and he had said that this in particular UFO was egg-shaped. Antonio had actually drawn a diagram of what the spaceship had looked like when it had landed on the ground, so I will insert that somewhere here. He also said that this UFO was standing on 3 legs when it had landed. After realizing what was going on, Antonio got really scared and tried to run and start up his tractor to drive it back towards the house, but when he got to his tractor, it would not work. So with that, Antonio tried to flee on foot. But as he was trying to flee on foot, one of these little people or creatures that got off of this aircraft grabbed him by the arm and pulled him back towards their ship. And the next thing that he recapped was that 3 of these creatures were surrounding him and pulling him onto their ship. Antonio said that these creatures were very small, about 5 feet, and they were wearing gray coveralls. And they had on helmets that were also gray. And the only part of their face that they didn't have covered by this helmet or this suit was glasses or lenses that resembled lenses that we wear here on Earth. Antonio also said that he thought that their eyes were very small and could have been a light color such as blue, but he wasn't sure if this was just something that was being distorted by the lenses that they were wearing. He said that while these creatures were pulling him onto their aircraft, they were speaking to each other in a language that he did not recognize as ever hearing before, and reported that it sounded similar to grunts of an animal or barks of a dog. He said that once these creatures had gotten him onto their ship, they had stripped him of all of his clothing. Now, a little note here is that he also had said that nothing that these creatures had done to him was extremely aggressive. After stripping him of all of his clothing, they had covered him in this weird clear gel all over his whole entire body. After being stripped of all of his clothing and covered in this weird gel, they had put Antonio into a room that he described as being circular shaped. Now, he had said that this room had weird red symbols drawn all over the walls, and he actually remembered what one of the symbols, which was above the door, actually looked like, and he had drawn it up. So I will insert that in this clip somewhere. Now, after being brought into this circular room, Antonio said that one of the creatures had actually made an incision and drawn blood from his chin, although he said that this procedure was not painful and didn't even really irritate him at all. Now, once the procedure was done to his chin in the other room, he was actually brought to a different room. And he had described this room as having like holes in the wall, and that there was a bed or a futon in the middle of it which he could sit on. He said that he was left alone in this room for about a half an hour before all of this gas started filling the room from the holes that were in the wall. Antonio reported that after breathing in this gas, he became violently ill. He said then the gas had stopped and he was left alone in this room for a little while longer before something very odd, and this is probably the most memorable report of what had happened to him on his journey in this case. Antonio had said that after sitting in this room alone for a little while, a woman had entered the room that he was in. Remember, at this time he was still naked, and this woman was completely naked as well. And he had said that the woman resembled a human like us, but she had a very pointy chin. And also he had said that her hair was what he would describe as platinum blonde, but it was more white. But her pubic hair and armpit hair were bright red. He said that she had little slits for eyes, and when he looked at them, they really resembled cat eyes. Despite that all being said, he said that this woman was very attractive, and he instantly felt a really strong attraction to her. So I guess at some point this woman had walked up to Antonio, and the two had start taking part with each other in sexual intercourse. Now, it is said that they had sexual intercourse 2 times in total. And he had said, well, while they were having sexual intercourse, this woman never kissed him. She just kind of nipped at his chin while growling. And once they were finished, the woman had looked at Antonio and, without using words, had communicated to him by pointing to her belly and then pointing upwards that she was now impregnated and she would be raising their baby in space. After this, Antonio was given his clothes back and then was given a tour of the ship, at which time Antonio had tried to steal what he described as looking like a clock to prove that he had been abducted by aliens. And at this time, he was actually caught by one of the aliens that were on the ship with him, and he was returned back to his home in Brazil. When Antonio was returned back to his home, he had checked the time and had realized that it was now 5 a.m. and he had been missing from his home for a little over 4 hours. And I guess after this experience, Antonio had reported this to many people and doctors and whatever, and after looking at him, doctors had taken notice that Antonio actually had radiation poisoning, and he had a scar on his chin from the incision that these extraterrestrials had made. This was actually the first really investigated alien abduction. Even before the Betty and Barney abduction, which is supposedly, reportedly, the first original alien abduction story. So he didn't really have anything to go on. He just said what he had recapped. And another strange thing about this is he didn't even need hypnotherapy to recall anything that had happened to him. He just knew it had happened and he remembered it all in his head. Antonio later went on to become a lawyer and actually got married and had 4 children. And he had stuck to this story and said it was 110% true right up until the day that he died in 1992. I don't know about this one, guys. What do you think? Please comment below if you agree. If you don't agree, let me know what you think, because this is a crazy story. I personally think that it could be true, but it could also have been him lying, although after looking into this, there was absolutely no reason that he would make something up like this, and there was nothing for him to go on. So I don't know, I believe it, but a little part of me wants to be like, no, this cannot be happening, this cannot be true. But after looking into it, the fact that he had radiation poisoning, the fact that the scar on his chin was there, stuff like that, I think that I do believe that it is true. Anyways, guys, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below what you'd like to see in my other videos, and also comment below what you think about this story, because I'm really on the fence about it. Thank you so much for watching. Please, when you're done watching this video, go to my channel and watch my other videos. For the rest of January and maybe longer, I'm going to be uploading on Monday and on Friday. So if you want to see those videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.